Welcome to the Retro Video Store Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the Retro Video Store Podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
Hi, Eric.
And that's my co-host, Neil.
I'm Neil. And who is still out there trying to save our forests and our homes, even though they're getting notifications that there might be layoffs that they can take because someone who's running the big show is fucking short-sighted? Sorry, off the soapbox because I'm a buffoon. Mm-hmm. We know that.
Yeah. David may or may not have a job. We don't know. He's a federal firefighter. Maybe he could be like, turning tricks in Georgia right now. We'll put out fire for free or for cash,
We'll give you burning sensation for $5.
So David, we hope you're okay out there. Hopefully we'll be back pretty soon for Monster March, which is starting pretty soon. So yeah.
My phone must have known about that, man, because I sent you that Japanese Spider-Man. Did you watch any of those?
Yeah, I did. I love it, man.
I watched them too. I thought they were absolutely fantastic. And then it started giving me these like behind the scenes videos of like, oh, here are the people inside the suits and all the stuff. And my phone is ready for Monster March.
Yeah, Monster March is coming after, we do Lord of the Rings, Return of the King is what the movie we're going to talk about today. Hopefully you listen to our Dragon Slayer podcast, because in our Dragon Slayer podcast, we talked about Big Red Cola, or it's not really a cola, Big Red soft drink. And we actually got a listener email from listener Ryan. Neil, do you want us to read that email?
Here. Yeah. So Ryan says, being from Texas, Big Red is a big deal. See what he did there? See what Big Red, big deal. I now live in South Carolina, and they do not have it here. So the first few weeks here, I went through the Big Red DTs, which that sounds dirty. It sounds nearly pornographic that he went through I went through a few Big Red DTs down here in South Carolina, if you know what I'm saying. If you're going to drink an RC Cola, you have to pair it with a moon pie. Chocolate, though, none of that vanilla crap. I was unaware they made vanilla moon pies. Have you ever seen? I've never seen one.
I think that's the only time I've ever seen.
Really?
It's vanilla. Yeah.
What I used to get with my RC Cola when we had to drink that when my parents, with the RC or the Shasta, is I would always get a Chico stick.
Yep. Remember Chico sticks?
Yeah. Those were badass.
Or Fun Dip. Remember Fun Dip?
Oh, the Fun Dip's amazing. I used to save, now they only do it with one stick.
BS.
We used to get the two and then you'd save the other stick. You'd have like a box full of them so that whenever your parents were like, you can't have any sugar, you just go to your room like, screw you guys. I got 1 million of these Fun Dip sticks here. I can get my sugar buzz off of. Hiding them like we've got some kind of problem. Like we need a 12-step program for Fun Dip sticks. And then he says, lastly, growing up, we had a grocery store named Winn-Dixie. It's so weird the grocery store named itself after that movie. And they had their knockoff Coke. That was a joke, guys. They had their knockoff Coke versions in a machine next to the Coke machine, but their versions were 25 cents as opposed to 50 cents. Which
that's kind of the Walmart thing. You would get the Sam's Cola in the vending machine next to the regular Coca-Cola or Pepsi.
Yeah, and you'd hope like, hey, can I have a drink on the way out? Because we lived a ways out of town, and if your pop would like throw 25 cents at you, you're like, damn it, I'm stuck with a shitty one.
I just remember going to some of those trading posts that were really close to the reservation, and my dad or grandfather would go to trading posts and buy stuff or sell stuff or do whatever they did at a trading post trade, I guess. And they had a weird apple soda, and it was just like it tasted like a crisp apple soda, but it was a little more sugary. And I can't remember the name of it, but it looked like it had like a half an apple on the cover, on the can, and that was like a weird, strange delicacy you would get every once in a while. But I do remember Shasta. That was big as a kid because there was cheap and your parents would buy that instead of regular Coke. And then you would have strawberry Shasta was my favorite, and grape. Gotta hold it down for the grape Shasta.
Okay. Yes. Yes, grape soda in general. But Shasta did have an apple soda. Slice had an apple soda. That's it. That's all I can. That's all I got. Those are the only ones I could think of that would even be in our neck of the woods.
Well, thank you, listener Ryan, for bringing that up because yes, obscure sodas did they were around all over the place. Remember, there was this one. It was
we didn't. I didn't finish. I didn't finish the letter.
Oh,
I mean,
you didn't? Sorry.
You want to go on and talk about yourself, but I didn't finish the letter.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm selfish. Go ahead.
Jesus Christ. As always, love the show. There we go. That's done. So
sorry, you cut you off, Ryan.
Yes, Ryan. My apologies for this guy. So now we just need an email from the 3 other folks to see that they love the show, and then we covered all 4 of the listeners, and we're good.
Yay!
Good for us. Okay, pat yourself on the back now. Come on, talk about yourself.
Patting it. That was me. All right, pat myself on the back.
Let's go.
Well, before we jump into Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, let's do what we always do. Neil, what did you watch this week?
I went and watched The Wolfman.
How was it?
Went and sat down in the theater. So it was okay. It was all right. I really liked where they were going with it. It's not like just crazy full of action. You get teased with the Wolfman for a bit. You get teased with the whole thing, but it's more about kind of the relationship between the man and his wife. And Sammy and I walked out of it and we're like, there seemed like they were trying to do something else with this. So she looked it up, and I'm going to spoiler alert. It's kind of an allegory about this guy's wife, the guy who made the film. His wife has a disease where it was making it more increasingly difficult for her to communicate. Much like what the guy who got the Wolfman virus or whatever was trying to communicate and he couldn't. So yeah, I like the take on it. It wasn't just like a full moon transformation. Like once you get it, that's the way you exist. You're in that kind of wolf person, hairy, weird, strange vision, wanting to munch on people. Kind of, that's just the way you are.
Okay. You're the first person to like explain it to me. That makes me want to see it. I heard other people go, "Oh, it's just bad. It's just not good." But at least your explanation gave me a little bit of like, okay, there's some sort of allegory or something going on with it. So.
Yeah. And then I think parts of it got left on the cutting room floor because he says some things and you're like, oh wow, we haven't talked about that. We haven't seen that. Like what's going on? So I think there was probably more to it, and then it got trimmed back a little bit because it does move kind of slow. It doesn't kind of come right at you. You do, you get to kind of see the basis for the character as a child, the way he and his dad interact, and then the way shit happens. There's a little bit to put together. But it was also nice because I took the day off work to go hang out with my wife and we sat and watched a movie. So it was like super relaxing. So my head was willing to pay attention to it. It's not like one of the middle of the week movies where like, I need to see something fucking blow up. I need to see somebody get shot in the head or something. I need to see a movie with some kills just because I'm frustrated with everybody at work. So this was nice and relaxed. And I was able to kind of let it unfold. Let it unfold. Made me want to go hang out in Oregon.
All right.
Well, that was what it was for.
Cool.
And there's no sports going on, so I can't even imagine what the hell you watched.
Well, I watched a lot of anime this week.
Nerd. Sorry, go ahead.
I pay for Andrew to have a subscription to Crunchyroll, which is the anime like streaming service.
When you said when you said you pay for something, that was not where I thought you were going to go.
Mm-hmm. No, she gave me a Crunchyroll. It's extra. Got the Crunchyroll, man.
Well, I told you my joke. What's the difference between a garbanzo bean and a chickpea?
I know, but you can't pay for a garbanzo bean on your face.
Yeah, I've never paid extra to have somebody put a garbanzo bean on my face.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Okay, go ahead.
What is it? M for mature.
Yeah, M for mature. I think it's just
E
accepted it.
Sorry,
yeah.
Yes, E for explicit.
Yeah. We tried at the beginning. At this point, it's like, no, here we are. Enjoy.
Yeah. So I watched two movies on Crunchyroll, and one start of one series. They have the Mazinger Z Infinite series. I watched the first episode because I'm a Mazinger Z fan.
When did that come out?
It's a couple of years ago. It's probably about 10, 15 years old, but the animation's pretty good. There's also a OVA movie, which is much better, but this one is pretty good. Then I watched a movie called Robot Carnival, which is really, really cool. It came out probably in early 90s, but it was a bunch of different Japanese anime studios each put into a little story in this 1.5 hour kind of movie. And there's a lot of different styles. Katsuhiro Otomo, who did Akira, did one of the segments, and it's really cool. It's a fun watch. I haven't seen it for a long time. I think I owned it on DVD somewhere, but in the basement, I had to look. But I watched that. It was interesting. And then I started watching Akira, and I watched
boom, boom.
Yeah, I watched that, and they have the Japanese language version, of course, and then they have the dubbed version that you can watch, and that still stands the test of time. It's amazing.
Tatsuo
Kaneda. It's still great, though. I still really enjoy that one. That was one of those gateway movies when I was in at UNM that Japanese animation. Let's check this out, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, watching all sorts of other things. And, like Ghost in the Shell, Vampire Hunter D, and Fist of the North Star, and Legend of the Overfiend.
Uxido Doji. Yeah, Uxido Doji. Legend of the
Yes.
Overfiend. That was an introduction into some different types of Japanese animation right there.
The kind of extended your tentacles out to different areas. Yeah. Some crazy stuff. And anime is just so varied now, so weird. I was just looking through all the different titles you can watch, and there's like high school dramas and like band dramas, and there's not just it's not just hero anime or sci-fi. And there's this one that's called Ikitosen. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It is insane. It is just big boobed superhero anime girls with the worst fan service you've ever seen in your life.
So when you say, I don't know if you've seen this before, no, Eric, I have not. I've not
seen this.
No, I'm not paying for Crunchyroll, my guy. I get my Crunchyroll at home from my wife like a normal God-fearing man.
I don't have to go out and get extra Crunchyroll on the side.
I don't need extra Crunchyrolls. My wife with her normal sized teeth are at home. Oh, you knew it was coming. You knew.
Yeah, I know. I was just waiting for it.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. And my friend, listener Jessica, has not listened to our newest episode where I said you basically beat the joke into the ground.
So what you're saying is if I ever meet her, she will be your friend, but probably never mine.
No, she says she likes the way you give me shit. So,
there we have it.
Yeah. Anyway, we're talking about Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. And I will say this movie is freaking amazing. I got some nitpicks. There's things that bother me a little bit. But overall, the movie is pretty damn good. I don't think you can really achieve that scale again. I don't know. It's hard to repeat it. And why does CGI in 2003 look better than CGI right now?
Peter Jackson and the guys down there at the Weta Workshop and all the stuff they do is amazing. And I just, when I was in art school, one of the things that I focused on was pottery and sculpture. So I spent a ton of time in this giant building, looking like I do, neck to neck with like guys with like white people dreadlocks, making pots and making things. And I'm still astounded by like the quality because of the mugs and everything they brought out, like the pictures and things, looking at it, like that looked handmade, and it may very well have been. And they were all gorgeous. That made me super happy that they went, because I know he went through that kind of detail for like swords and armor and things like that. But if he did that and got like local craftspeople to start crafting like the mugs and the pictures and everything that they used, like, good for you, Peter Jackson.
Yeah, I can imagine the number of people that they employed during the making of the movie was crazy, and did more for the New Zealand Tourism Bureau than any other thing could do. It's really the craftsmanship, the detail, the blending of CGI with practical,
Yeah,
and just everything is just so amazing, and it's hard to match
dentistry.
Yes, they did have a dentistry initiative in New Zealand. This always reminds me of The Simpsons with the big book of British smiles.
Yeah.
That is one of the greatest gags ever in the history of The Simpsons, when poor Ralph is in the dentist chair, and then he's lying about flossing, and they open up the big book of British smiles, and it's one of the greatest gags ever in The Simpsons.
After paying for my kids' braces, I'm like, you know what? Would a little crooked have been so bad?
Yeah, just finished paying for my son's braces as well. So yeah.
Good God,
I get you.
How much did that run you in Colorado?
I don't remember, because I just put it on the flex spending card.
Between like 8 and 10?
I don't even know if it's that much.
Really? Oh, it was pretty pricey out here.
I'll have to ask Jamie. She's the one who really oversaw it. I just kind of said, here, put it on the insurance card, and then.
Way to be engaged, Dad.
I know. She's in healthcare. She's the one who's the driving force. She holds this family together. I'm just here.
As my wife calls it, I'm just a dick and a paycheck.
I'm a little more than that, but
you're just a paycheck.
She's the glue that holds this family together. So
yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, hit us up with the Internet Movie Database tagline for The Return of the King.
Gandalf and Aragorn lead the world of men against Sauron's army to draw his gaze from Frodo and Sam as they approach Mount Doom with the One Ring. Sorry, I tried to do that all in one breath because that was all one giant ass sentence.
Mm-hmm. So directed by Peter Jackson, just like The Two Towers, written by Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh, and Philippa Boyens. Also with the first two. This, if you break up the three movies, because they were shot simultaneously, this one came out to be about a $94 million budget, but made $1.15 billion at the box office.
Just at the box office.
Yeah.
Not with all the tie-ins and video and all the other streaming and shit. It's probably an insane amount of money.
Yeah, this movie, this was the franchise, and it deservedly so. It was so good, and it's hard to there's this thing on YouTube that Andrew and I were just watching where people are watching the movie and there's a live symphony playing the music to the movie, and that's probably keeping city symphonies alive by doing those types of gigs, because you want to go watch Swan Lake, or do you want to go watch Tchaikovsky, or do you want to watch The Lord of the Rings in front of an orchestra? So
I don't like to buy DVDs, but I did buy these when they came out because it had the extended versions, and there was so much that they had to cut out just because it would have made the runtime obscene. Yeah,
this movie is already long as it is. It's 3 hours and 24 minutes.
No, go ahead.
I'm like, hey, maybe I'll watch the extended version. 4 hours and like 40 minutes. Yeah.
So we watched the regular because when I put it on and I flipped over, and my wife looked at me and she goes, "If you fucking play the extended version," I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. And we started watching it, and we started watching it last night. and I had a bunch of stuff to do today because I'm jumping on a plane early tomorrow morning to go make sure my mom's doing okay. And I stopped it, and before my wife was like, "Well, it's almost done. We should just watch it." I'm like, "No, I need to get sleep." Paused it, and she was like, "Oh my God, there's 2 hours left." I'm like, "Yes." It's a lot of movie to digest.
If you cut out hobbits crying, how much time would you cut out of the runtime of this movie?
Oh man, but you cannot put the price on intense close up of a teary-eyed hobbit. You know what I could have done without was that fucking bit of the beginning with Smeagol, and then him chomping down on that freaking ass gooey gummy fish that they gave him. That I could have done without.
Well, and we're going to go ahead. Let's talk about the cast really quick. Elijah Wood, of course, Frodo, Ian McKellen, Gandalf, Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn, Sean Astin as Samwise, Andy Serkis as Gollum, aka Schmeagol, Billy Boyd as Pippin.
When you call it Schmeagol, you make it you make it sound like a hygiene thing.
My God, did you see that? He had Schmeagol. It was so gross.
So much Schmeagol. You had so much of that you could smear it on a piece of toast.
Disgusting. Yeah. So we know the characters. We know that. So
yeah, why go through the cast?
We know it. Pretty much everybody's a holdover. Not too many new people in this cast.
Miranda Otto.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Miranda Otto is Éowyn. Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, she was there.
Not as much teeth coverage in this movie as the last time. Only one glaring time in this one.
Yeah, I've never wanted to see somebody sad in a movie so bad in my life. Yeah, poor Miranda Otto. So, critical consensus, pretty awesome. Well, let's talk about the movie first, and maybe we'll go back to critical consensus, because what is the deal with Smeagol and Deagle? Okay, yeah, that was.
Are they idiots?
Well, I was not thinking. The word "idiot" was not the one that came to my mind. They did seem like they were from more of like the kind of Arkansas-ish side of the Shire. But when he's like leaning over him,
they took the short carriage to Hobbit School.
Oh man, they only had one furry toe on their big giant ass feet, and it was webbed. It was all fused. Yeah, you know what? There's a lot of ambiguous relationships amongst hobbits in this movie. You know,
they're just friendlier than us, I think.
Yeah, I don't want anybody
emotion a little bit better than we do.
Gives it to us, my love. What? Told you it was this one time and I was experimenting. I was drunk. What are you talking about?
Well, I thought it was interesting that they started the movie that way, because it is, you expect to show like a big battle or something like that. But then again, they take it all the way back to the beginning where the ring is found, and Smeagol and his cousin Deagle are playing with, they're fishing, putting a tiny worm on a gigantic hook.
Thank you. That was going to be the next thing. That was when they cut away from that. That was what Sammy said. She goes, "I want to see how he fit that worm on that giant hook." That was more interesting to us than the whole opening of the film.
So the Deagle catches a fish and it pulls him under the water, and then he comes up with the ring, and he's hypnotized by it immediately. Smeagol is even more hypnotized by it, and then they have a awkward wrestling match, and then Smeagol kills Deagle.
While being strangled, Deagle remembers his safe word. Smeagol lets go, and they both live with the ring happily. They figured out where he wants to wear it.
The safe word is Shire. So yeah, that was awkward. He kills his cousin, and then I did like the deterioration of Smeagol as he's just getting more and more exposed to the ring and corrupted by it. And there's that one point where he has his eyes closed. Then he opens them up, and they're the big glassy golem eyes. Yeah.
All I can hear is Galadriel. It gave him a naturally long life. Spend a lot of time dealing with Gollum in this.
Yes. It is sort of his story in the sense that...
Is it called Return of the Gollum? No, we're waiting for Aragorn to come back and take the throne.
How Smeagol got his groove back. So then we go back to Frodo and Sam and Gollum, and Frodo is rapidly becoming more of a dick to poor Sam.
There's a joke right there. So as I gotta say, my wife was just nailing it when we watched this. So there is some point where like they're climbing up the stairs. I know I'm jumping. And Frodo's there, and Smeagol's basically on top of him in his ear, like whispering. And she looks over at me and she goes, I wonder how many like weird alt porn spinoffs were born from these three.
Oh yeah, there's some Rule 34 fan fiction big time about this group.
That made me laugh. I missed a bit of the movie. I was
what's he got sits in his pockets then? Yeah.
It smells like fish.
And he likes it raw and wriggling.
Stupid fat hobbit.
Ooh, that was a good one, Neil. Impressed.
I'm sorry, you totally like fuzzed out on the recording. What the hell did you? I'm sorry, I just did that.
So that was a good impression. Good
okay.
Smeagol impression. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna. Every time you say something I don't agree with, that's what I'm gonna say to you.
So Frodo is just an asshole to Sam. Sam, and we mentioned this last time, Sam is a true hero of this movie.
Carried him up the damn mountain.
Yes, he carried his ass up the damn mountain. And then once they get up the mountain, Frodo has this, all of a sudden this, I'm going to run into the volcano. Like, where was that energy, an hour ago when I was dragging your ass up the mountain?
He was resting.
And what's the deal with his water bottle tugging? Did you notice how he was really going for that water? Frodo was.
Okay, I'm so glad there wasn't a euphemism. It's like, wow, did you watch the extended version? Maybe a different one than what I saw, because they had full on Hobbit action.
Yeah, he was really trying to get that water.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, holding it in a weird way. All right, we're not here to talk about homoerotic hobbits. Well, in a way we are, because we haven't got to the end yet. But as soon as they start going back to the main group that we're interested in, which is, Aragorn and Theoden and Eomer,
all of whom normal sized teeth.
Yeah. Yes. All of them. They all went to, smileforkids.com or whatever.
I was waiting for you to come up with something way better. He was like, no, he didn't form this in his head.
I didn't. I was riffing, but I couldn't think of it. No. Invisalign. They all went to Invisalign. Yes. Yeah. Merry and Pippin are smoking that leaf. Pippin smokes a little too much, according to Merry, who's also kind of trying to look after Pippin a little bit. Eowyn has it for Aragorn. Which lady doesn't? I think if you talk to the average lady, and I don't want to minimize ladies, but they have it for Aragorn. Most of the ladies I know, they're like, oh, Aragorn's so dreamy.
See, not my wife.
Mm-hmm.
When he laid one after he became king and he laid one in on her, my wife was like, oh God, that's gotta hurt. And it's like, I got facial hair too. And then she just kind of glared at me. I'm like, yeah, it's staying.
Jamie was more partial to Legolas.
Well, she likes him a little effeminate.
Oh, they didn't have more of a Gimli-sized person than
just no axe.
Yeah. So I do like the term "stove your head in," which Sam wanted to beat Gollum's head in with a pot. He was going to stove his head in, which he should have done.
Yeah, he should have just waited till the middle of the night, shanked Gollum, and rolled him off the thing. And like, I don't know where he went.
He just took off, Frodo. He took off. Yeah. Of course, Pippin has the old see-through bowling ball, or the clairvoyant bowling ball, the Palantir, where Sauron looks at him and then thinks he's in Rohan. So they take him to Gondor.
Yeah,
Minas Tirith.
He could have been related to Smeagol and Deagle at some point with all the dumb shit he pulls.
Yes, he's done a lot of dumb stuff throughout the series. I do like them. They're riding off to Minas Tirith. The elves, there's more elf stuff, which is just
not as much though. That was kind of a relief. Does your whole species move in fucking slow motion all the time?
I know they're always moving in slow motion. The way they go to Rivendell, and Elrond is I just keep thinking of Mr. Anderson.
Frodo Baggins.
Then Arwen sees her kid with her between her and Aragorn. Kid looks kind of bratty to me. Maybe
raised in privilege. Maybe he's a little bit of a dick.
Yeah, it's true. Like, look at me, I'm half elf and I'm half human, and my dad's the king, and
yeah. And you know how many maidens I'm going to get because of this? I can even get the ones with normal teeth, not the little nubby ones they got over in Gondor.
Not those Rohan teeth, you see. Yeah, what was the people of Minas Tirith, I guess the Gondor people, they're much more brunette looking than the old Rohan people. Just different vibe, pale brunettes. Did you notice that? Like the ladies of Minas Tirith?
No. I was not checking out the ladies while I was watching the film.
The people are like, completely different in, the way they look. Different group of people. Yep. Denethor is also a dick in this movie. Just different levels of dickery in this film. Denethor being a dick. And I sent you a text. Like, if you're watching this on Max and you're watching it in 4K, they put a lot of work into this, but the hair pieces were a little more exposed in 4K than they were in when you just watch it regular. The guy who played Denethor, that hairpiece was pretty obvious.
I guess Sammy was reading trivia that in the scene where he's dumping the oil, it's basically water and glycerin because they wanted to look really wet. But I guess they had to do it in one take because it was just hell on the wigs.
Yeah. Yeah, and Theoden's beard looked kind of weird compared to the natural one that you have. You have a very natural full goatee.
Very distinguished gray. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is weird. Sammy. Okay, so Sammy got like an AI thing on her phone. It was running through like images, and she was having fun. Like, she turned me into like a little felt person. She turned me into an elf cartoon character. And every one of them, dark black mustache, and then gave me a gray beard, basically down to my nutsack, which I don't think was fair. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying if we want to give it a little Denethor action here, this is the way to go. That's it.
Mm-hmm. I will say that the Witch King is probably one of the coolest things in the movie. Pretty badass. Didn't sound like Skeletor.
I'm thinking we need you a Faramir kind of beard. Not too long, just the whole, like, rocking the whole stubble around the whole way.
My problem is that when I grow in facial hair, I really can't grow it on, like, the cheeks, so I look like a vato. It's like a real kind of, like,
Eric,
wiry.
Eric, you're half vato.
That's true. But it comes in very, what's up, they say?
That would you know what? Honestly, if that was me, I would do it just because it would create so many more interesting situations. People coming into work like, oh, this is the supervisor, Eric. You just look at him. Orale. I think it'd be great.
What's up, fool?
¿Qué onda, puto? What's going on?
I did like the beacons of Gondor were pretty sweet. Just the way how that whole thing worked, and I thought it was a really cool part of the movie. Let's go back though. Let's talk about the critical consensus. We're jumping way ahead, so
okay.
There's a lot of it, so you probably don't want to read all of it, but hit us up a little bit.
All right, we'll skip through. Basically, okay, Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 94% rating, and that's very strong. Cinema Score, you get a 94 out of 100. Basically, universal acclaim. And it's given a rare score, an average of A+, which is not easy to get on there. All right, Alan Morrison of Empire, he gave the film a perfect score of 5. And in his review, he called the film the resounding climax to a land. I've actually had that.
Those are my favorite type of climaxes.
I had that phrase used with me on several occasions. To a landmark in cinema history, and praised how Peter Jackson had kept the momentum of the series rolling on and on, regardless of the traction that was lost with small teeth. The traditionally difficult middle part and weak finale, that's for you, delivering a climax to the story that's neater and more affecting than what Tolkien managed on the printed page. Morrison also mentioned how fans of the films who have walked beside those heroes every step of the way in such a long journey deserve the emotional payoff as well as the action peaks, and they will be genuinely touched as the final credits roll. All right, Elvis Mitchell, kick-ass name, dude, for the New York Times, lauded the acting, the craft of the technical crew, and Jackson's directing, describing The Return of the King as a meticulous and prodigious vision made by a director who was not hamstrung by heavy use of computer special effects imagery. Roger Ebert gave the film 3.5 stars out of 4 because he's a cocksucker, saying that it is such a crowning achievement, such a visionary use of all the tools of special effects, such a pure spectacle that it can be enjoyed even by those who have not seen the first 2 films. Talking about the whole trilogy, Ebert said that he admired it more as a whole than in its parts, and that The Return of the King certified The Lord of the Rings as a work of bold ambition in a time of cinematic timidity. In his review for The Times, James Christopher praised The Return of the King as everything a Ring fan could possibly wish for, and much more, and described The Lord of the Rings as the greatest film trilogy ever mounted, with some of the most amazing action sequences committed to celluloid. Nay Persay for the BBC gave the film 5 stars out of 5, judging it to be the best chapter of the trilogy since it combined the ooh factor of the Fellowship with the zippy action of Towers. Persay described The Return of the King as majestic, moving, and immense, and an astonishing piece of storytelling. Basically, pretty much everybody liked it.
Yeah.
So we've got, who do we got down here? We got Entertainment Weekly. They really dug it. Talked about the choreography of it and all that great. Richard Corliss of Time called it like the film of the year. Joe Morgenstern, the Wall Street Journal. He liked it too. Peter Bradshaw, who had been much less enthusiastic about the first 2 chapters of the trilogy, gave The Return of the King 4 stars out of 5 in his review for The Guardian, because Peter Bradshaw is a miserable human being. Also, you know what I've heard? Weirdly enough, what I heard about Peter Bradshaw, which is kind of strange because I rarely know much about critics, is that he has very tiny teeth. He's like, technically it's really superb, and commented, hours after watching the film, I can close my eyes and see those incredible battles. And here's the thing that gets me. How does he describe it? Pulsing and throbbing in my skull. A couple of critics
about that reunion scene at the end of the movie.
He was. Some critics had negative opinions because they're dumb. Tom Charity in Time Out, some story strands are crudely abbreviated. Others fail to develop elements that are already well established. Given the inordinate running time, it's hard to avoid the feeling that we've already been there and done this. Well, because you didn't get the whole movie, jackass. Jonathan Romney in The Independent, there's something not quite palatable about these intrepid, largely beautiful European, boldly fending off the nameless, numerous hordes of the side. Okay, but
Tolkien was European, and he was basing a lot of this off European lore. And the whole idea of, the divine rights of kings and things like this. So it only makes sense that they look European, my dude. Sorry. Antonia, hard to pronounce name, in the Evening Standard said that Viggo Mortensen's Aragorn is the good king of the title, while the other actor looked fetching in a crown and cloak. He doesn't have half the gravitas of Sean Bean's Boromir. Yeah, but you know what? Boromir dead. Sean Bean never. As soon as you know Sean Bean's in a movie, it's like, okay, great. When's he dying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's a whole supercut on YouTube of Sean Bean dying in movies.
I wouldn't doubt that. All right. A lot of people complained about the length of it, particularly the epilogue. But that was a big piece. That was a big piece for the journey of the characters, like how it all ended. I mean, they could have, like Merry and Pippin, if I remember, like eventually they head to like Minas Tirith and like live there for a bit or go back and forth. I mean, they could have epilogued the hell out of this, but they had to end Frodo that way. Mm-hmm. All right. Joel Siegel of Good Morning America said in his review, which he gave an A, if it didn't take 45 minutes to end, to be the best picture of the year, as it is just one of the great achievements in film history. In February 2004, a few months following its release, the film was voted 8th on Empire's 100 greatest movies of all time. That's really fast. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was going to say very fast.
Compiled from Reader's Top 10 list, this forced the magazine to abandon its policy of only allowing films being older than a year to be eligible. In 2007, Total Film named The Return of the King the third best film of the past decade, behind The Matrix and Fight Club. All right.
I feel The Matrix history has not been kind to The Matrix because of the sequels. If they would have just left it there.
It would have been done. Did you even see the new one?
No, I avoided it.
I didn't want to do it.
Yeah, it's just kind of like my policy of not wanting to see old bands on stage anymore. So I didn't want to see the people from The Matrix be like 30 years older than they were. And then, even though Keanu's still got the skills and stuff like that, he's, he has aged like we all do,
Speak for yourself.
Well, going back to, I think, what is the greatest part of the movie, and, they have to go back and forth between the different, plot streams and stuff like that. But I really, really cared the most about what was going on in Minas Tirith. And when they had to go back to Sam and Frodo, I always felt like you kind of let the air out of the momentum of the movie. Not that I don't care about Sam and Frodo, it's just what the spectacle of what was going on, with the battle of the, Pelennor Fields and everything is just all this major, amazing stuff is happening. And here is still Sam and Frodo crawling up and they're arguing about who stole the bread and, Smeagol being an asshole and, all this other stuff is happening and they just keep going back and forth to that.
Yeah. But how do you translate into film that kind of weight?
Yeah.
It's because he's got this incredible like burden on him. It's fucking with him. After Shelob stung him and they take him up to the tower and the goblin and the orc, when he's got no shirt on and he's got that just like raw spot around his neck.
Like the ring is so heavy. Yeah.
He's just been tugging on
it's
him.
Nothing against Elijah Wood. I think he did an amazing job. And I think Peter Jackson did the best he could with it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's bad.
No, I didn't say that. I'm just like, how do you convey that when you've got so much, like, the action and the tension of these giant armies coming to destroy basically, okay, look, we're going to take out this other big stronghold of men. Like, how do you get that? Although the one gripe I have about this is that this did so well that they decided to do, we're going to do it in 3 Hobbit movies. Yeah. And we're just going to throw in shit that never happened. That's like the weird naked cat you got to milk in Dune. Where the hell was that from? That never existed.
Are you talking about the David Lynch version?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. And then they did The Hobbit like that, just like weird things that never happened, never occurred. Okay, ooh,
like
Battle of
the weirding modules they used in David Lynch's Dune, where they would like shout and shoot.
Muad'Dib.
Usul's name is a killing word.
Yeah, we didn't need to have all the extra stuff that they threw in. It would have been a pretty good movie without it.
Well, going back to the
I drive my wife nuts with this. We watched a film. It was about a hobbit. we were out to eat, and she's like, "What are you going to get?" He looked at burgers, but decided on flatbread.
I think that Jamie has a high tolerance for my tomfoolery. Sam's got to be a saint.
You know the best thing though about her, really, normal sized teeth.
Yeah, well,
didn't have them little nubs.
Be thankful for those. Fluoride in the water and things like that.
Well, not for much longer.
I know, not for much longer. By the next time we talk, our teeth could be falling out. So I think the greatest battle of any movie that I've seen is in this movie. I mean, you really can't beat the scope of that battle. I think Avengers Endgame was really, really good, and that was probably like the closest thing in the movies that I've seen in the last 10 years where I was like, yeah, I'm really hyped to see it. Mm-hmm. But still, this movie is the tops, just in the way everything moves back and forth. And, I love the beginning with the siege warfare where they're throwing the heads, catapulting the heads over the wall.
Release the prisoners. Okay, you say this, and I think basically what you're doing here, and I feel bad for the 4 people listening, is that you're showing a little bit of ignorance when you're talking about the scope and scale of a battle, and like this being the top. And I really think there's some stuff you're ignoring, and I feel kind of bad to be here with you for this.
What am I missing right now?
Okay, so let's just go back. Those Oliphants, okay, they were taking out the Rohirrim right and left.
That part is amazing.
So they were taking out the Rohirrim right and left. Okay, we're talking about the scope of the battle. Let's finish this. Let me follow this through. All right. And then they're sitting there and I'm like, oh, we don't know how to deal with this. Now there's hundreds of these dead guys and dead horses, hundreds, before they figure out, oh, maybe, let's shoot the elephant and start hacking away in its legs. Okay, great. Now what do we got? Ewoks, like maybe 3 dead Ewoks. And then they start taking down those ATSTs, tripping them, smashing them. Okay, now as far as the scope of a battle, please. I know battle, sir. You are no battle.
You think the Battle of Endor is a bigger scope than the Battle of the Pelennor Fields? I feel like...
And then you got Luke Skywalker up there, Frodo in it. Like, he's getting the temptation of the dark side. He doesn't know what he's going to do. And then his dad turns out to be a kick-ass Samwise.
The part where the Ewok gets killed, I just thought that was so needlessly cruel that they threw that in there. Where he goes back and he's poking him.
He goes to get him up, and it's like he's already stiff. He's like, oh, it was the best.
Then he just sits down, and he puts his little Ewok head in his hands. And I'm just like, this poor Ewok, he's got severe PTSD. He's never going to be able to yub again.
It just makes you wonder how they sold it. Like, hey, we're gonna go fight those guys. Nothing's gonna happen. You're all gonna be perfectly safe. And he's like, my buddy just got blown to hell right here. He's going to leave. He's going to have a necklace full of stormtrooper ears. He's just going to go deep into the jungle. And, it's going to be bad.
Well, we talked about it before, but what is that? Which Star Wars game is it where you randomly show up in battlegrounds where sometimes you're the stormtrooper, sometimes you're the Ewoks. But if you're the stormtrooper, the Ewoks are scary as hell to hear them doing their little yubs in the distance and the trees and stuff like that. And they come out in in full force with their...
I talked about it, but I'm trying to remember what game that was.
Is it now? Battlefront 2, maybe? hold on, we'll take a second. Andrew, which video game is it where you fight the Ewoks in the randomly you show up? Is it Battlefront 2?
Yeah, Battlefront 2.
It's Star Wars Battlefront 2 is what it is.
Okay.
But yeah, you just randomly show up and all of a sudden you're like, no, and they beat the shit out of you.
Okay, say what you want about my my Gollum right there, but that was quality Ewoking.
Yeah, but I still think when the Riders of Rohan show up on the edge of the hill and Theoden gives them the old rousing speech, that's still fucking awesome. I mean, that is still like my favorite part of the movie. Like, it's been on HBO a lot, but every time that I know that part is within 10 or 15 minutes, I will sit down and watch that part just to get that, just to see that moment, because it's fucking amazing.
I would have given anything if they would have panned back to the riders and have one of them there with half of his face painted blue. That would have been freedom.
Yeah. So,
and I get Aragorn's speech. I get for the situation. It's okay. And these guys, they're shitting their pants. Like, not more than like a week ago before we started heading out this direction that we almost got our asses kicked. And the only thing that saved us were a bunch of Kukui that came out of a mountain. That's the only thing that saved us. And now we're surrounded by these guys again. You dick. They needed a Theoden level speech to get them going for that.
yeah.
Not just looking at his guys and going, for Frodo, and then running off by himself. Like, obviously you've got a death wish. I know you've got the great sword and all, but please, dude.
Well, see, that is where some scenes from the extended edition should have been in the regular edition. And we were talking about this before we started recording, is when the Witch King confronts Gandalf and breaks his staff, and you think the Witch King is going to kill Gandalf, and then you hear the horns from Rohan over the hill, and that causes a diversion, and then the Witch King goes off to go fight that part. That part was really amazing, and it also explains where the hell the Gandalf staff goes the rest of the movie.
Yes.
And then the part we were just talking about, when they managed to gather the remaining Gondor army and the riders, the Rohan, and they march on the Black Gate, and they kind of see them, you see the Black Gate open and the armies surround them, but you don't see the part with the Mouth of Sauron. And the Mouth of Sauron is freaky.
Oh yeah.
He's
so
freaky
cool
as hell. He's cool looking, freaky as hell, and he has the mithril armor that the orcs took off of Frodo, and he has it, and he shows it to Aragorn and Gandalf, and they think they're fucked because they think Frodo is dead. And then Aragorn gives the speech saying, I don't believe it. And then he starts talking about, this is the last stand of men. And it flows much better. And you feel more inclined to why the army would follow Aragorn into battle. And then, I think they just adding those two small scenes back into the original cut would make it better. And you wouldn't have to watch 4.5 hours of the movie if you added just 5 more minutes into the original. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It kind of made me want to watch the Rings of Power, which I really had avoided.
I hear it's bad.
I've gotten mixed.
Yeah.
I've gotten mixed because he wrote the Silmarillion, or however it's pronounced.
Silmarillion or whatever.
Silmarillion, the other book.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, does it go into all of this? It was I tried reading it when I was a kid, about the time I read, The Hobbit and the series.
Mm-hmm.
And I started diving into it, and it just reminded me of like those Old Testament, and then Jacob begat Isaac, and Isaac begat Aesop, and Aesop begat the fables, and the fables begat and started reading it. And I'm like, this is way too much like the stuff Mom and Dad have me do on Sunday mornings.
Yeah, it was too dense or too,
this.
Yeah. I didn't get into it either. I remember renting it from the library. Then I was starting to read it, and I had the exact same reaction. Like, ooh,
yeah, can't do it.
Mm-hmm. Too arcane for me. So, yeah, the cool part. I mean, we all know that all the shit that Sam does to get Frodo to the mountain, and then he gets knocked out by Gollum, and Frodo finally decides that hey, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to keep the ring for myself. Puts it on. Gollum shows up, bites his finger off, and they fight for it.
Then he becomes Frodo of the Nine Fingers.
Yeah, Frodo of the Nine Fingers. I actually kind of like the way they did that in the animated Return of the King a little bit better.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, just because I think because Gollum is so happy that he got the ring back that he's dancing and he doesn't see that he's close to the edge, so he falls into the lava out of his own carelessness. Where in this one, Frodo and Gollum are fighting for it, and they both go over the edge, and you've got to get that scene where, Sam's got to pull Frodo back for the 100th time, save his ass.
mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure how you're going to be able to pull somebody up when they're squirting blood all over the place. You'd probably let go of him or whatever.
that was the joke. Give me your hand. Ew, not that one.
Exactly. It's like Scary Movie 2. Lend me your hand. But I just kind of like the way it was done in the animated Return of the King a little bit better, because he bites Frodo's finger off and Frodo is hurt. Then he's jumping around in joy that he finally has the ring, is precious. Then falls into the lava. I thought that was a little bit more, kind of poetic in the way he died versus fighting to the end with Frodo.
That's the interesting thing about these three movies, is that not everything is exactly as it was in the books. Some of it for the better, like Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, there's stuff you had to take out.
There's stuff you got to take out, but then there's you do have to make it sort of palatable for people to go want to watch it, because not everybody's read the books.
Yeah. Yep. And I think, like I said, this is probably the best adaptation of the books put into a movie that it couldn't get any better as far as the way it was received by audiences and critics, and won the Best Picture Oscar that year. And it's hard to think of that series getting any better. And obviously, when they try to go Return to the Well with The Hobbit, it was just wasn't the same. The returns were just not as good, especially when you're adapting a small book into 3 movies when it should have been maybe just 1 or 2.
Yeah, it was well worth it for Smoke, though. I enjoyed the hell out of that.
Yeah, that part, there was definitely some cool parts, I will say. But I have them on DVD, and I've only ever watched them once again. And sometimes they're on TNT or whatever, and I'll watch them a little bit, but not as nearly as much as I've watched the return of this trilogy over and over again. Let's talk a little bit about the end when, of course, the Eagles show up. Don Henley, Glenn Fry, Timothy B. Schmidt, Joe Walsh.
I don't get it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a band. The others are birds.
They took it to the limit one more time.
Yeah, they could have shown up for that reunion tour a little bit earlier and dropped his ass off.
No shit. Why didn't they just Uber an eagle from the Shire to Mount Doom?
So all right. So the Fell Beast, they look like, oh, we're super badass. Okay, Eowyn, swack, chop the head off. The Eagles show up and start fucking those things up. They should have just flown their happy asses straight there. Much shorter film. Dropped him off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Frodo's not such a dick because he's not having to deal with the whole ring and all that kind of stuff.
Smeagol's running behind him like he's late for a plane, but never makes it. And the Eagles take off.
Never makes it. Yes. Mm-hmm. The ending has been talked about a lot, maybe being too long, but when I watched it this time, I was all for it. I was really in the mood to watch it, and I felt all the emotions that I felt the first time I watched it, and I was into it. I got a little teary-eyed when everybody was saying goodbye and stuff. I will say that Sean Astin can roll some giant tears. That guy can he like huge tears, not just a little bit, a lot of trickle. He put the waterworks on whenever he started to cry.
Yes. The size of the tears, proportionally, those tears, the size of them in comparison to I don't know, Eowyn's teeth.
Yeah, they were like 3 Eowyn's teeth.
3 Eowyn's teeth, huge. I'm gonna miss this when we go to the next movie.
Well, we can talk about Godzilla's teeth next movie and Godzilla versus Biollante, which we're watching next week.
Biollante. You throw a little bit of your heritage in there every time you say that.
Biollante.
Biollante.
My homie Godzilla. Yeah. The movie is really, really good. I feel like you couldn't have ended it any better. Sam marries Rosie Cotton, even though he pines for Frodo. Rosie's pretty cute. She seems like a good time.
My wife was fucking winning it when we watched this movie. When it was like, okay, it's Rosie Cotton, and it's like, well, she had Rosie Cotton. There's no way he would have gotten her pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Hold on,
it's a Menzies joke.
Yeah,
thank you.
There you go. Yeah, mm-hmm.
And it's okay because my wife said it because she's of the ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. But yep, highly recommended. It's still really, really good. There are things like the more you watch it, there are things that kind of wear you down. Some of the tropes of
wear you down like teeth. Like if you had normal size, just wears them down to like little tiny nubs.
So yeah, I feel like it is one of those movies. It's classic, obviously. It's a modern classic, even though it's already 22 years old. I cannot believe that it's been 22 years old already. It's kind of
stared at disbelief when I looked at the show notes when you sent them and looked at the year. It doesn't seem like it's that old. Mm-hmm. And again, we've got movies coming out that the special effects are nowhere near as good as this.
Yeah, really. I mean, the seams, there's too much CGI now, and they don't integrate the practical effects kind of like they did in this one, because you could tell there's practical meshed with CGI enhancement, and it makes it much better. So, yeah,
100%.
Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for our truncated Fantasy February. We are going to jump in to Monster March next month, and we are going to talk about our first movie is Godzilla versus Biollante. It is on Max. It was kind of hard to find until recently, where the Criterion edition, Criterion people brought it to Max. It's a really underseen but really, really good Godzilla movie. I think it came out 88, 89-ish, whatever. Godzilla effects are really, really good. Interesting, different kind of take on things. After that, we're going to do Alligator from 1980, Gamera, Guardian of the Universe, and then Anaconda. So those are the next group of movies.
Not looking forward to Anaconda. Oh, the best bit of trivia. My wife loves to do the trivia while we watch these movies. So apparently Peter Jackson had such a shitty time dealing with the Weinsteins that when their credits show up, they got the sketches and all the things, that he put theirs over two of the big giant like troll creatures.
That's funny.
Just as kind of like, here these guys are.
Dig against them. Yeah. That's funny. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it. If you want to hit us up on our socials, rvspodcast222@gmail.com. We're on the Instagram. We're on Blue Sky. I need to update Blue Sky. I haven't done it in a while. And then we are on Facebook. So check it out. If you send us an email, we'll shout you out, just like we did listener Ryan today. So hit us up with that.
If you want to buy us a coffee to help pay for any of this, that would be great too.
Yeah, you definitely go to buymeacoffee.com.
Mm-hmm. Just look up the RVS podcast, because Eric turned down the ball trimmer money that we got offered.
That's true. Mm-hmm. Stand by it. But thank you, everybody.
That would have been this great. Hey, this episode, we're just nuts about this film. Speaking of nuts, how are yours?
Hobbit's feet are hairy, but they wouldn't be that hairy if they used.
Nothing
you want
like
as smooth as Gollum.
You know what the ladies of Gondor like? Freshly shaven scrotums. No one's nose is getting tickled in Rohan tonight. All right, everybody, have a good week. You're so childish, man. I can't believe
I know
this.
we're childish. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Retro Video Store Podcast.